for joining us in this month's webinar. My name is Ijeoma Dele, and I am the moderator for today's webinar. We will be discussing on a topic titled Securing Critical Infrastructure from Cyber Attacks. Our presenter, Mr. Yusuf Buba, will be taking us on this discussion. At the end of the presentation, there will be a session of questions and answers. By then, you can drop your questions in the chat box, or you can signify by raising up your hands, and you will be unmuted to speak. So without further delay, I will be handing over to the speaker, Mr. Yusuf Buba. Over to you, sir.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Madam Ijeoma. My name is Yusuf Buba, and I'll be the host for this month's webinar titled Securing Critical Infrastructure from Cyber Attack. So without further delay, let's get started. So our webinar for today is Securing Critical Infrastructure from Cyber Attack. So first of all, let's look at the outline for this month's for today's webinar. Understanding critical infrastructure, overview of critical infrastructure, understanding the cyber security threat, notable cyber attacks on critical infrastructure, security measures for critical infrastructure, and lastly, the Zoracom solution for critical infrastructure. So let's look at what is the critical infrastructure itself. So critical infrastructures are systems and assets that are essential for the functioning of a society and economy. Example of critical infrastructures, we have the energy, water, transportation, telecommunication, healthcare, financial service, and government facilities. So let's look at the sectors of critical infrastructure. We have the energy sector, which comprises of the power plant, electrical grid, and oil and gas pipelines. Water and wasteways, we have the water treatment plants, distribution network, and sewage system. Number 3, we have the transportation, which is the railway, airports, seaports, and road network. Number 4, we have the telecommunications, which comprises of the internet service providers, telephone network, and satellite communications. Then the healthcare systems, we have the hospitals, clinics, emergency response units. 6, we have the financial services, which are the banks, the stock exchange, and payment processing systems. And lastly, we have the government facilities, which includes the building, emergency services, and the military installations. So now let's understand the cyber threat landscape. We have the types of cyber attacks. Number 1, we have malware. Malware disrupts and damages or gain unauthorized access to your system. They are usually common through Bluetooth, through your flash, Bluetooth, and email, unauthorized emails. You understand, malwares get to your system and give the attacker a backdoor that they attack your system. Phishing, fraudulent attempts to obtain sensitive information. Like you're aware, most times people call to tell you they are your bank managers asking you for your last 4 digits of your ATM card, or calling you to tell you they sent you an OTP from your bank that you should provide. So those are phishing attempts. Then we have the denial of service attack, the DDoS, which the attacker overwhelms a system with traffic so that he can simply disrupt the service. Then we have the ransomware, where they encrypt data and demand ransom for its release. With the ransomware, the attacker hijacks your system, makes you unable to use your system, and demands you to pay in ransom. Either you pay in cash or you pay in crypto, so that you can regain back access to your system. And then we have advanced persistent threat, APTs, which are the prolonged targeted attack aimed at every critical infrastructure. So here we have the notable cyber attacks on critical infrastructure. Like number 1, we have this Studnex in 2010, which targeted Iranian nuclear facility and disrupting the entire Iranian facility services. Number 2, we have the Ukrainian power grid attack in 2015, which caused power outage affecting hundreds and thousands of homes, facilities. And then number 3, we have the Colonial Pipeline ransomware in 2021, which disrupted the fuel supply across the east coast of the United States, which makes it difficult for them to get petrol and gas for their vehicles. Cooking gas was disrupted from getting to homes, so people cannot use gas. It caused a lot of havoc. Case studies. Number 1, we have the energy sector. Incidents. there was attack on the power grid. The response was implementation of advanced monitoring and rapid response protocol. And the outcome was it reduced the downtime they had from that attack, and it improved the resilience. Number two was the healthcare sector. The incidents, we have the ransom attack on a hospital. And the response was network segmentation, regular backup, and employee training. And the outcome was no ransom was paid after the attack, and the data was restored from the backup they had. And then we have the financial services incidents. The phishing attack targeting a major bank. The response was enhanced email security was provided by the bank. Multi-factor authentication was introduced, and employee awareness programs were conducted. The outcome, it reduced phishing incidents and improved security posture. So we have the future trends and challenges in our critical infrastructure and the cybersecurity landscape, which includes increasing sophistication of attacks. They have advanced techniques. Cyber threats are becoming more and more sophisticated and harder to detect these days. Then two, we have the integration of AI and machine learning. AI in cybersecurity. The use of AI for both defensive and attack strategies. Then IoT, Internet of Things, and Industry Control System, ICS vulnerabilities. Increased attack surfaces, growing number of connected devices, increased vulnerability. Yeah. The more and more mobile devices we have, the more and more computers to networks, the more vulnerable the network becomes. And then the supply chain security, third-party risk, ensuring third-party vendors follow robust cybersecurity practice. So here, when you're dealing with third-party vendors who come into your domain, you have to have a robust cybersecurity practice, to checkmate their activity on your network. And the regulatory compliance, evolving regulations, keeping up with changing regulations and standards. Security measures for critical infrastructure. Again, we have the risk assessment and management, which identify and assess threats, which recognize potential threats and vulnerabilities. Develop risk assessment, risk management strategies, which create and implement strategies for mitigate risks. Network segmentation, isolation here. We separate critical systems from non-critical ones to prevent lateral movement of threats. Here, when you identify a threat within your network space, you identify that particular system, you segment it from others so that the threat will not move from one system to another, so that it will not spread. Just like virus, you contain it within a particular space so that it will not infect other systems. Then access controls. You now create restrict controls here, monitor and control accesses to systems, not just your device system, but even your physical accesses to your door accesses to your facility. You have to restrict it. Then the use of multi-factor authentication, which enhance security and additional authentication steps. Here, most of us are aware when we're using our mobile devices or logging onto our devices, sometimes it tells us to enter the OTP sent to our email addresses or OTP sent to us via SMS. So this is our multi-factor authentication. And at the same time, the use of multi-factor authentication app like Google Authenticator. We have the regular update and patch management, system and software updates, regularly updates to protect your known vulnerabilities. So most times on our phones, we get notified that we have an update, pending update from our applications. Then we have incident response team, develop response plans, create and regularly update plans to respond to incidents, conduct drills. Here you perform simulations to prepare for potential cyber threats. So in every organization, in various setup, you need to conduct drills so that you will know how you people will manage to respond to threats in the event it happens. Then employee training and awareness, education on cyber threat. Train your employee on recognizing and responding to cyber threats. The regular training programs. Then implement ongoing training and phishing simulation, just like the conduction of their drills, so that your employees will be constantly aware of the shipping simulation, the shipping trend, and you simulate the attacks so that you can know how to react, how to respond to those threats. Collaboration and information sharing, government and industry collaboration here. You work with your government and agencies, industry partners, and cybersecurity experts. Information sharing initiatives, participate in initiatives to stay informed about emerging threats, advanced training technologies, intrusion detection and prevention systems, where we monitor and prevent unauthorized access, just like we do in our Zoracom space here. Security information and event management, which analyzes security events in real time, and the endpoint detection program, which detect and respond to threats at the endpoint level. So Zoracom solution for critical infrastructure. Here at Zoracom provide a solution for critical infrastructure, which is called the Fortrex. The Fortrex solution is a total cybersecurity solution which secures and monitors the entire infrastructure. Fortrex is built is a unified cybersecurity operational resilience solution that ensures the safety and privacy of critical data, integrity, and availability. Data security and privacy decisions require measurable information. So Fortrex uncovers potential IT risk in the external attack surface of organization and provide functions to quickly minimize them. Based on analysis, more informed business decisions can be made and safety critical processes can be improved. With monitoring, you can easily keep an eye on the situation and provide security progress at any given time. So let's look at what does this Fortrex checks within your space, in your domain. Fortrex examine your company from the perspective of an external attacker. The IT system and application covered are checked for apps security, infections, network security, patch management, and data breach, DNS configuration, and encryption. The result is presented in two variants: a descriptive report for the management to make informed decision, and vulnerability dashboard with relevant details for the IT managers to make their own informed decisions too. So Fortrex has 4 value propositions, which number 1 is it helps identify non-invasive vulnerability in the organization's entire system. It tracks changes and automate reinforcement to ward off unauthorized access. Number 2, Fortrex proactively identifies threats to mitigate impact, automates this threat handling and reporting, secure your database, and helps your organization maintain a strong resilience security posture. 3, as a robust solution, Fortrex securely monitors, analyzes, investigates, respond, and protects critical digital infrastructure for banks, fintechs, and payment services providers as a security operation as a service. So SOCAS as a service. So here, our Fortrex solution works 24/7 to safeguard your data, your domain, your infrastructure. Fortrex incorporates the entire life cycle of the organization security program, enabling you to manage both offensive and defensive operations to protect your organizational assets. So with this, I come to the end of this month's webinar. So if you have any questions or contribution, please you can forward them. And I hand over to my moderator, Madam Ijoma. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Yusuf Uba, for that expository and insightful presentation. Now is a session for questions and answers. If you have any question, kindly drop it now in the chat box, or you can signify by raising up your hand. Mr. Yusuf Uba is ready to address all your queries. Okay, in the chat box, there is a question from Felicia Adi. The question is, what are the biggest challenges in securing IoT devices in critical infrastructure? Over to you, Mr. Yusuf.
The biggest challenges includes the sheer number of devices. There are vast manufacturers with varying security standards. What we mean here is different manufacturers manufacture devices with different standards. Some are substandard, some are standardized. And the difficulty of applying update and patches. Different manufacturers, different OEMs. So you send patches and some devices might not be able to receive the patches based on their OEM. Ensuring robust security practice during the design and deployment of IoT devices, along with the continuous monitoring, is very essential. So when you design your devices, you make sure it complies to the practice, to the secure IoT standard. I hope that answers your question.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Yusuf Buba, for that brilliant response. Felicia, I hope that answers your question. Okay, another question is in the chat box from Adi. The question is, how can small utilities with limited budgets protect themselves from cyber threats? Over to you, Mr. Yusuf.
Okay. Small utilities can focus on implementing basic cybersecurity hygiene, such as regular software updates, building strong password systems, not just the regular password, your name and your date of birth, but here creating a very strong complex password which comprising of upper cases, lower cases characters and special characters and symbols, regular employee cleaning and using affordable security solutions, just like having a Fortrex solution. Collaborating with larger organizations and participating in information sharing initiative can also provide additional support for small utilities. So I hope this answers the question.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Yusuf, for that wonderful response. I hope that answers the question, Adi. Okay, another question in the chat box. It reads, can AI and machine learning improve cybersecurity for critical infrastructure? Over to you, Mr. Yusuf.
Okay, the answer is yes. AI and machine learning can enhance cybersecurity by providing advanced threat detection, automating response actions, and analyzing large volume of data for anomalies within a very short time. However, it is important to implement those technologies carefully so that to avoid potential risk and ensure they complement human expertise. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Yusuf, once again. There's another question in the chat box. How do I identify phishing mails? Over to you, Mr. Yusuf.
To identify phishing mails from your mail is, number one is you look at the email itself coming to your mailbox. Do you identify the source of the email? Is it a regular email that you receive, or it's just a normal random email that comes to your system? And number two, when you open the system, first of all, the first thing you need to do is you hover around the sender's name, the email address of the sender. If it's a phishing email, you find out that there is an underlying email address, which is a funny email domain there, which is covered by the present email address you see, which is not the original email address from the sender. So when you hover around over it, you find the phishing email address there, and then you look closely to the characters, to the letters, to the words, the spellings, because sometimes you find out that where there is an O, they can use 0. You understand? Where there is an E, they can use 3. So funny things, they are incorporated within the email domain name. And then you look at the email itself, this grammar used within the email, you find out that it is not formal. And lastly, they attach some funny attachments to the email. So those kind of attachments, you have to be very careful, when responding to them or clicking anything on your system. Thank you very much.
Wow. Wow, thank you, Mr. Yusuf. Your response is quite inciting. Another question is, what role does government regulation play in securing critical infrastructure?
Well, government regulations set baseline security standards and requirements for critical infrastructure sector. Compliance with these regulations ensures that organizations implement necessary security measures, and it helps in creating a uniform security posture across the industry. That's why you see we have the ISO standards here set by the government. So every organization needs to comply with those regulations. Like in the cybersecurity world, you need to comply with the NCC standard, FCC standard, so that you can have a uniform posture across the entire industry. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Yusuf. Any more questions from the audience? Our speaker is well prepared to respond to all your queries. Okay, if there are no more questions, that brings us to the end of today's webinar. If you have any concerns about our Fortrex solution, or you want to inquire more about the Fortrex solution as was introduced by our speaker, Mr. Yusuf Buba, please send us an email with the address on the screen, or you can call us on the phone number displayed. You can also follow us on various social media platforms. We're on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter. So thank you once again for participating in this month's webinar. See you next month. Enjoy the rest of the day. Bye.